practical resources to help parents support their kids' mental health. It's actually available outside Australia as well, Billy. I'm not sure if you knew that, but it is, which is awesome. They've got short videos, fact sheets and podcasts covering everything from anxiety and bullying to navigating separation or just the day-to-day ups and downs of family life. Everything they do is backed by research and made with input from parents and professionals, including this guy.
Yeah, they're wonderful. Guiding Growing Minds and myself have been doing work with the amazing Emerging Minds team, building out resources, especially around emotional development, and they've just been fantastic to work with, so it's great to partner with them on this.
Awesome. And the best of all, it's absolutely and completely free via their website. So go check them out at emergingminds.com.au/families, and we'll pop a link actually in the Instagram bio as well so you can get to them via there.
Thanks, Nick.
That has been episode 112, Dr. Billy Garvey. It's our third part episode on nurturing neurodivergence and the Green Mile. What are people going to learn in the third part, Ep?
So amazing questions, like a small proportion of what came in, a lot of amazing stuff, reflections, advice. We do, PDAs here. We talk about PDA, talk about trauma, talk about like some scripts and helpful narratives around social stuff, partners that are struggling with this stuff, like hopefully some really helpful information and, pretty tough read at the end, but hopefully something beautiful that was shared. So thank you to everyone for contributing to it.
Brilliant. Amazing, just even beyond the scripts, there's a bit in there that I really resonated with me about being playful, particularly the kids at PDA, just making tasks playful, which I got my head around and I think it's awesome. So I'll definitely be using that just generally everywhere. Guys, we hope you really enjoy the episode. It's part 3. There's a clue at the end for the next episode's movie, so make sure you listen through and hope you enjoy it.
Hi, I'm Billy, a developmental paediatrician.
And I'm Nick, a developing parent.
We're going to use scenes from iconic movies to talk about how we best support our kids.
This is pop culture parenting.
Hey, don't let your mother smell that beer on your breath. She'll take it out on me.
I don't want to see you again for the rest of my whole life. I don't want to see anybody else either.
Who is your daddy and what does he do?
Just use your best judgment. Trust you.
Morning, Dr. Billy Garvey. How are you?
Good, Dr. Nick. How are you?
That is as silent we have ever sat through the opening credits of it.
Still.
We usually try and recite the lines, pump ourselves up.
Well, it's just beautiful music. Beautiful music. There's some creative content that's amazing around this, including the Photoshops.
Yep.
So, do you like the last one?
They've gone up a level.
Didn't get much feedback across the socials about it. But with him, they're holding his hand.
Yeah, I know.
Junk off his hand instead of holding his wrist.
Subtle tweak.
Yeah. Initially, I was told by the artist that couldn't be done.
The what?
The artist.
The what?
The artist that does the Photoshops. Did I tell you? It's you know him well as well,
Breno.
Listens to that. Breno. He's an interventional radiologist.
The penchant for
Photoshop. I don't know if I told you, he's got a teenage son who's a lovely, lovely young man, and he went past him in the studio, and Breno was doing our Photoshop for the notebook. And it's like Breno doing our two faces, like almost making out, and his son just like rolled his eyes and kept walking. I love that story of just his teenage son seeing him doing it. But yeah, mate, how are you going?
Yeah, good.
School holidays, that plate spin.
Yes, but not as eventful as your week.
Yes, we'll do a proper. We'll make it a Wednesday.
I couldn't ignore it.
Totally. But I've got about 15 Griswolds, so for our next one. Remind me of the movie Clue, actually. Yeah, I know. But yeah, some beautiful, beautiful stuff that's been going on in my world, and and even just big, amazing thing introducing you as well. But yeah, it's wonderful. And it's going to be why the next topic is important as well.
Okay.
But great, mate. Life is very good.
Okay, good.
It's always good when I'm sitting in a room with you, but it's outside of this room, it's really good too.
Yep, okay. And just a couple of things before we kick into our second part. We have a Patreon coming up, Billy.
Yes, 24th of July. It's right, isn't it?
And I'll be co-hosting. I'll be on the decks.
Yeah.
There's a lot of vision switching and question counting.
Be there for wisdom too. So we're going to do it as a live Q&A.
I get flustered. But
You were great. No, you get flustered because of how disorganised it is.
Yeah, I need a long runway leading in, and it's often a short hop. Very short aircraft carrier.
Who knows if I'll crash or actually take off?
It's amazing. It's amazing.
Constant, which is really interesting off the back of talking about neurodiversity, because it's amazing to think about like this kind of need for hyperarousal that a lot of people have, and I think I am in that category as well. I don't think you are. Like, I need chaos. Even, we'll talk about it probably next time, but being on parental leave, I found it tough because I'm like, where's the chaos? Where's the, and even Annalise is like, just sitting around, like, she's awesome, just sitting around with the kids and stuff, but we're just used to like a lot going on.
High pace.
And it's a lot of kids. A lot of kids in classrooms find that hard, or in other environments where calm and silence and space and all those things actually don't help them because they have sensory needs and kind of attention needs. And so,
And just at the start of this episode, Billy, you would have heard us do an introduction of a brand new sponsor in Emerging Minds Families. Can you tell us a little bit about them? Yeah,
they're wonderful. Yeah, great shout out actually. So, I've been working with them for a while now and done some work with them across a bunch of projects, and we have a partnership with them with Guiding Grown Minds, looking at how we can build out some content. They have freely accessible, amazing content, and more of it is getting built out, including me being videoed, talking about some stuff, so hopefully that's okay. But wonderful team, and what they're really thinking about is a lot of what Guiding Grown Minds and we're trying to do is how do we bridge that gap between the research and the clinical knowledge and where families are actually living their lives.
Yep, so, Aussie-based sort of company team, but available overseas, which overseas listeners can access it, which is cool.
Really wonderful. So a lot of the orgs like that to give a few of them a shout out, we, Teachers Consent, people have probably heard of them. They're amazing. We're doing stuff with them. There's a number of places, Berry Street, obviously, Berry Street Education Model, like these kind of often, government financed, but like really high level quality stuff that's kind of filling that space, because a lot of the stuff, unfortunately, in the space doesn't have evidence or clinical input. So it's really wonderful that we get to be a part of that. So if you're in an org like that and interested in partnering with us or doing some stuff together, please reach out, because it's one of the great things about Guiding Grown Minds.
Yep. Brilliant. Anything else before we kick off?
I'll probably think about it once we hit stop, so as usual.
Brilliant. We'll add it into the recap of the episode.
I'll do your voice. So I just want to say this.
Oh, that's great, Billy. Oh, Billy, you look fantastic today. Well, I didn't say that. Sure, AI will pick it up. All right, so Billy, we're going to kick off. This is our third part on nurturing neurodiversity.
Yeah.
And we did it off the Green Mile. So there's 2 episodes before this. So if you're listening to this, the first episode you've listened to, we break episodes into kind of like the science, and then we take questions from everyone and we have a bit of fun with the science. We pick a movie. If you haven't listened, you don't have to go back. You can pick it up here. It's totally fine. But if you're like, I thought they would have covered a couple more questions from the audience, it might be in the episode prior to this, in episode 111.
It's an important point, actually. You can go back on everything. People are still asking us for stuff about sleep, stuff about toddler tantrums and all that stuff. So, go back and have a look. We've got to try and find ways. There's a website, Guiding Grown Minds, that has our back catalogue in it, but checking it out. And, people like the Green Mile. Do you know what I forgot to say about the Green Mile? You might have known this. Michael Clark Duncan, purple black belt in BJJ.
Really?
Yeah.
Oh, that'd be a disaster.
Yeah, you think back.
He's huge.
When did you get your purple?
I didn't, Billy. I'm still vying, and it's getting further away. Oh, don't. I've had a rough week on the mats. I really have.
Mate, you had a recent podium.
No one knew that on Tuesday night at 6 o'clock. Everyone ignored that, let me tell you. Oh, God, now that's just flashbacks of how bad that was. Anyway, Billy, here we go. Hey, should we kick off?
Yeah, let's do it, because there's a fair bit to get through, but there is, hopefully not too long.
We're going to start with 2 reflections, and then we're going to go into 9 long questions. 9 short questions, and then 6 longs. And then some
powerful wrap-ups.
Hey, Billy. Hi, Billy and Nick. I'm a long-time listener, first-time emailer. I'm a 37-year-old mother of 2 daughters, 4 and 2 years old. I have 2 degrees and I'm a practicing lawyer. I'm married to a beautiful partner and privileged to live in a safe and loving home. And I hit jackpot. And I'm surrounded by a beautiful family of in-laws and friends. I'm a perfectionist, highly sensitive and empathetic, smart and sociable. I'm also struggling with disordered eating, social anxiety, depression, and suicidal ideation. As a young adult, I began engaging with supports and was diagnosed with major depressive disorder and generalised anxiety disorder and was treated with antidepressants. Since becoming a parent in 2020, things have been immensely difficult. I always wanted to be a mother, but I never thought it would be this hard. After close to 5 years of struggling, I sought answers. 6 weeks ago, I was diagnosed with ADHD, inattentive type, and while going through the diagnosis process for ADHD, I was told that I'm highly probable that I'm also autistic. I've discovered that I am a wonderful zebra, but have spent most of my life feeling like a weird horse. I score well above average for women with autism who mask. Simply put, I was misdiagnosed, mistreated, misunderstood. Billy, you mentioned that it's important to focus on how a child feels about themselves, about how they experience the world and how they move through it. And that clinicians, parents, educators and those in the child's life ought to not just observe a child, but also go further with curiosity and openness, make inquiries into how the child feels. I wish someone had done this for me growing up. If they had have asked, maybe I would have told them about the fear of failure, of being found out, about how hard socialising with friends and family was, the exhaustion of trying so hard, all the time, to do what appeared to come naturally to others. My 4-year-old daughter loves non-fiction books, has an amazing vocabulary and refuses to wear shoes, only eats beige foods, doesn't like the feel of certain textures, struggles with transitions, has big feelings, is deeply empathetic, hates loud noises, is sensitive to hot and cold temperatures, and prefers to help educators over playing with her peers. When I observe her, she is fine. She's meeting all the milestones. Her educators state there are no concerns and that she is a delight in the classroom. I can see her beautiful zebra stripes, and I want to hear all about how she feels about the world and how she moves through it. Because I know that what people see on the outside doesn't necessarily match with what's happening on the inside. Thank you to you and your beautiful supportive families. Special shout out to Annalise and Henrietta from behind the scenes work. You're allowing my husband and I to know better and do better every day. God, what a message.
Yeah, what an amazing human. Okay. Hi, Nick and Billy. I'm a late diagnosed woman with ADHD and a primary school teacher. I wanted to thank you for how you talk about educators and how you're completely right about many of the systemic problems within education. Many teachers are not educated sufficiently about working with the diverse needs of students, but there are some who have the knowledge, and the way schools are structured and funded make it unmanageable. An example: your child gets diagnosed with ASD and you get a report for the school with a set of recommendations. Something like a visual timetable or visual prompts is really doable. Then you get something like give step-by-step instructions, regular breaks and modified tasks. But this is the 5th student in the class who has these recommendations, and they're not violent at school, so they don't get extra funding. So in 55 minutes, a teacher must do admin, mark a roll, sort out playground issues, explicitly teach the main lesson, tell students working at different levels what to do for their task, monitor the behaviour and engagement of all students, meet with a group to help or extend their understanding, meet individually with 1 or 2 students to work on a set individual goals and assessments, gather students to reflect on their learning. We've not even gotten to any of the supports or recommendations. I love my job, I'm experienced, I'm highly capable. Dynamic, fast-paced environments suit me. I was a learning specialist before going on maternity leave. Fewer and fewer people are signing up to do this, so whoever remains is being asked to do more. This is not a whinge, this is a call to action. The parents of the kids struggling the most doing so much advocating that I'm asking anyone with capacity, write to your state and federal MPs, talk to your Department of Education, ask for more needs-based funding for aids for children with additional needs, ask for smaller class sizes and more planning time for teachers to plan and implement these things that we know help. Support teachers when they're collectively bargaining for smaller class sizes and more planning time Even something as simple as pushing back on the teacher bashing news articles. Rate education is an election issue. Thank you for all you do, boys. Thank you for anyone who takes this on and helps change a system that isn't working for so many of our kids. It's just a really important point because, I used to, back when I started working in this space, I'd write these long-winded reports with like 30 recommendations at the end of them. And then I started meeting educators and just heard how unhelpful they are, and they put more pressure. So now, where I can, like every lunch break that I have at clinic, I meet with teams of educators and therapists and see how I can help and actually talk to them and get to know them, instead of just sending a report that says all this stuff where I don't actually understand the context and the strengths-based approach to, relationships. And so that's why I get to do that a bit in the hospital I work at, but I get to do it a lot within Guiding Growing Minds, because then that's how we actually, combine all of our superpowers.
Quick shout out to the teachers where we are. This is coming off the longest term of the year. It's the 11-weeker that they've just been through. It's a long term, that second term, and it heads into winter where we are, and a lot of wet days inside with the kids, and God, it must be really challenging.
Yeah, and hopefully we say it enough, but the most important professionals in our community should be supported more, paid more, valued more. And I'll always advocate for that.
Yep. Hey, Billy, we're going to rip into some short questions here.
Let's do it.
Let's do it. Hey, Billy, how do we help young children make space for their neurodivergent peers? What do you tell a young kid?
So, I think what we know is understanding, if we think about a lot of stuff we've spoken about from how friendships are formed, it's about common interests, strengths-based approaches, what's unique about this individual. And I think that understanding that everyone, not just neurodivergent kids, but everyone has differences in their preferences, what they need to thrive and all that stuff. And I think from a very early age you can do that. I do it with Evie. She's not in primary school yet, but we still look around and meet the kids that we meet either on the street or even just people we meet and stuff like that, and think about, I wonder how they're going, isn't that cool about them and all that stuff. And I think you have to be proactively exploring that, and not, once again, using compliance to be like, this is how you should feel about it, this is what you should think, and this is how you should behave. But exploring that strengths-based approach is really important, and understanding everyone is different. That's a really important bit. Just because we can do something with a certain level of support around doesn't mean everyone can.
Hey, I love scripts, just to prompt my thinking. So you had one in there that was like, how do you reckon they're going, or what's going on for them? How do you think they're feeling? What else might you ask?
So say you're at a birthday party and you're with your child and your kid's bopping around having a great time, but you notice a kid who's struggling a little bit.
Struggling as in they're sitting
isolated,
on the side.
sitting on their own, not leaving. So there's a really good example of this, actually, and this is a shout out to how amazing Evie is. Evie's got a little friend, who is awesome, and a sensitive kid like me. And for Evie's birthday, a card came home and it was like, oh, I like Evie because Evie helps me feel safe. And it was amazing because we're like, Evie's, wild and sensitive and very much like me in those aspects. But it was this beautiful thing to see about her. And now we've been able to build this narrative in her because we've got a specific example of it about how great it is that she makes sure that little kid is okay, and that little kid is struggling in that education environment. There was bullying that occurred. And it's been really interesting because we explore it with Evie and say how's that person going? And then talk about, and it came out that one of the kids she plays with is excluding that child. And we didn't say stop playing with them. We just kind of went, I wonder how they would feel. I wonder how that feels to be having those things said to you and all that stuff, and just explored it with Evie. And then Evie, on her own accord, kind of moved towards the kid who was feeling a bit isolated and away from the kids that were isolating that child. And so instead of explicitly sitting her down and saying, stick up for that kid, stop playing with those other kids, giving her, demands, putting demands upon her. We didn't even make requests. We just spoke about it. And then she came to it of her own learning and thinking about it. And now we get an opportunity to reinforce that because she's chosen to go towards that path and supporting that kid and empowering that. And that's a relational approach to it. Do you know what I mean? Thinking about this kid that what's the experience like for them. This is early theory of mind stuff. She's in that age bracket now. Thinking about that I think is really important, about just conversationally exploring it like we've talked about before, in spaces where kids have the capacity to have that conversation. Good. Not when they're in the heat of it, they've just been the person who's excluded that person, teased them, lashed out at them, whatever. It's about just doing that. But yeah, the party's another good example, just being like, oh, do you reckon little Billy wants to come and play? If they're forcing it a bit too much, let's just give little Billy some space and see. What do you reckon? What does little Billy like doing? He might not like jumping on the trampoline with 5 other kids. Maybe he likes just playing Lego with one other kid. Should we go and set that up, have it all there, and then just see if little Billy wants to play? And if he says no, we just go, hey, let us know when you do, because, you know, Evie's really keen to sit down with you and just play some Lego with just the two of you. You know, giving those options and facilitating and all that stuff.
I'm going to be asking for more scripts, Billy.
Yeah, good.
I love it.
Good.
They're good. Just good prompts. Hey, Billy, second question. How do we stop friends referring to them as the silly one?
Yeah, what do you think of that?
Oh, I can see how the label arises.
Yeah.
And spreads. Maybe it's like probably similar to what you're saying, like, oh, why do we think they're silly?
Well, yeah, I mean, have you ever been the recipient of something like that?
Oh, yeah.
Yeah. Yeah, I mean, that came to you pretty quick. Like, does that, and how do you feel about it?
Oh, I probably play into it because I like attention, particularly as a kid.
Got more in common than we think.
I was the fifth child. I needed all the attention I could get.
Yeah.
No, but I can see how. Yeah, like.
So we just got to remember how powerful narratives around kids are. So, like, you're thinking about, like, you know, I had narratives around me. I was a bad kid. I was never going to amount to anything and all that stuff. And you might say, oh, that's caused a bit of drive in me, but at a very significant cost. The silly kid, you know, they're more likely to be silly in the classroom. They might there's a big threat to their self-esteem, isn't it? Like, this is how I'm seen by my peers, especially when they get in the second half of primary school, where peer relationships start emerging as really important, being accepted and included and valued and a part of that group. And there are definitely kids that I meet in clinic constantly that it comes at the cost of being the silly one, the stupid one, you know, the one that, you know, is not that smart, whatever. But they'll do it because they just want to be accepted. So they'll fit that role. The important thing is, if it's your child that's experiencing that, thinking about open conversations about how do you feel about this, you know, because I'd probably feel pretty upset or hurt or feel like I wasn't valued if that's how my mates spoke about me. And if there's any inclination that, you know, your child is struggling or suffering because of that, thinking about how do I have positive relationships around family, close friends that push back against that narrative and change it, and then gently introduce that into the more superficial relationships and environments like school. Tap the teachers on the shoulder. Hey, I've had a chat with him. He is struggling about being always called the silly kid. Do you mind just, instead of pushing down the silly kid, put a more powerful, strengths-based narrative around this kid? You know what I mean? Yeah. So this is the stuff he's got. And it's interesting from a neurodivergent lens on specific kids about, like, instead of, you know, the kid that's like just never stops moving, you've got so much energy to give to us. You know, things like that, simple ways you can just shift narratives from a deficit-based, like something's wrong with you, to a strength-based. And, you know, the neurodiversity paradigm is really about how there's not this normal and then wrong or broken, you know, black and white thing. It's different. And thinking about how do we celebrate the differences in every single kid is really important. And that's where the deficit base can come in, just in simple social language around you're the silly kid or the dumb kid.
Right. Yeah, okay. I like the approach to making contact maybe the teacher and like the strengths base. That's good.
Yeah,
okay.
And educators are amazing at this. So consistency across environments is really important too.
Okay. Hey, Billy, how do you get public schools to listen to allied health recommendations? You might have to explain that to me, mate, because I don't know.
Yeah. So it goes back to the report bit I was saying, that's probably come from a family member that's like, the therapists have said that this stuff needs to happen. It's not translating to school.
A therapist is an allied
like a
health?
speech pathologist, an occupational therapist, a psychologist. There's someone who's saying, hey, in the classroom, it goes back to the reflection we did. Right. In the classroom, he needs written instructions, he needs one-on-one support to step through each of them.
Right.
You know, he needs an environment that doesn't have noise, doesn't have distraction, you know, is consistent and predictable and all this stuff that, you know, I used to put in reports and be quite like assertive about it. The problem is, and I completely understand where that parent's coming from, because they're going, the therapist is saying this is the evidence-based intervention that needs to be happening across all environments.
What do you do?
So you go to the school and say, hey, like, how can I help you guys do this? Because the therapists are saying, and it can't be 20 things. It's got to be like, the biggest priority at the moment is their capacity to sustain attention for more than 5 minutes. The biggest thing we're focusing on is them succeeding beyond superficial peer interaction socially. The biggest thing that we're focusing on is the sensory overwhelm and how do they signal early for help. And you pick one of those things and then go to the therapist to saying, this is the thing that we're working on for the next month or so. How can I help this happen at school as well? Going and saying, hey, educators, there's a list of 20 things and I've heard only 19 of them are happening. This isn't good enough. It's just not a great approach. And I understand where it's coming from. And I've probably spoken about this before. I spend a lot of time in clinic with families that are really frustrated at schools because these recommendations aren't happening and saying,
yeah, so maybe as a practical first step is when you get the long recommendation, not having to go at the allied health people, to be like, hey, what's the 1 to 2 things I should focus on and take to the school? Maybe just do that first, that you're dead clear and you don't have to try and distill 20 things, and the therapist to go, good question, I'd be looking at this one, you should see some uplift if you do this, and you go, epic, you go to the school then maybe, practically.
Yeah, and we've got, I haven't even told you yet, but we've got a different way that one of the long questions is going to be answered that I think will really help with this as well.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
Oh, Billy. He's chucking curveballs.
Sorry.
Hey, Billy, how best to nurture neurodiversity in a partner to support being ready for kids?
Isn't that such a beautiful question?
So you've got a neurodivergent partner and you're thinking about having kids. How do you nurture them?
Yeah, do you think that's awesome?
That's a ripping question.
Do you think about
That's
that when
planning
you and
ahead.
Henry were planning kids?
No.
Yeah, same. Isn't it bad?
No.
Do you know what I mean?
What do
Like,
we
isn't
think
it just a
about-
beautiful thing to be like, how can we make sure that this relationship is really humming before the increased demand of kids comes in?
Oh, God.
I didn't either.
Probably everyone would have. Thinking about that makes me...
Yeah, but I mean, it's not a lost opportunity. Like, you can also now think, like, how do I support my
I can
partner?
do it today. I can start today.
Yeah. But it's beautiful because in the setting of, a neurodivergent partner, I think thinking about, like, what supports do you need from the environment? And remembering, this will probably come up again in some of the long questions and answers, is it's about the environment. We talk a lot from a kind of dynamic, how do we support these kids perspective of it's person-environment fit. Do you know what I mean? So the environment shifts, not the person. Does that make sense? Like, a lot of the time we spend thinking about whether it's your partner or it's a kid who's struggling, you go, you need to change. Like, Nick, you need to change. Like, you're not performing well on the podcast. Like, I need you to be better.
Then you bought a heater.
I think about, yes,
Well, no,
the
I did.
environment change.
I bought a heater.
But do you know what I mean? Environment change. So I'm
Environment
stealing this, I can't remember his name, but he talks about how, like, if a flower's not doing well, you don't change the flower, you change the soil.
Yeah.
You change the water.
Put in the
you change
greenhouse.
the sunlight. Yeah, exactly. Oh, yes, exactly. The sun would say this is a greenhouse, and that's why we're blooming.
I'm going to have to turn it off in a second because it's roasting in here.
Yeah, well, because I know if I get the most beautiful Nick flower, if the temperature's right. But do you know what I mean? So thinking about that, and more practically and a bit more specifically, thinking about, like, what are the things and levels of support that my partner needs. We said this a while back, and there was a bit of pushback because it was a woman asking how they support their partner more in a heterosexual relationship, and they were like, he just needs to change and all this stuff. And I'm like, yeah, I understand where that's coming from. Culturally, there's been a real big bias and, like, a balance in this, but from whatever perspective, I think it's important. Like, I need to do this more with Annalise.
You know what I mean? Like, I don't think about it. I never think about this. I'm just like, what are we going to do to help support her? What are we going to do? What are we going to do?
I don't either, mate. Like,
You could
Annalise
be
is
looking
so
at either the
capable.
environment or the other carer.
Yeah, Annalise is so capable and never complains about anything, so opposites attract. But what can I do more? And, neurodivergent individuals are really vulnerable to the environment actually not being set up for them to thrive. And so change the environment.
Change environment. I love it. Hey, Billy, tips on language to use around or when talking with neurodivergent kids.
Yeah, so this is a really good one. The reason this
You
made
need to
the cut-
adapt your language?
Yes. Yep. So
Why?
because some language can be really destructive to neurodivergent kids
Like what?
and individuals. So things like metaphors. Things like, you're like a bull in a china shop or something like that. The kid's like, how am I like a bull? Because they're so literal.
So literal.
So they're just like,
Right.
do you know what I mean? It's not helpful to them. Vague language and, ambiguous language being clear, specific, giving space for processing, direct. You know what I mean? Like these kids really need this. Like you would argue all kids need this. Yeah, directness, but also just making sure there's space, there's connection first, all of that stuff, and not just like, it's like his example, we do this with all kids, like, I'll just say it louder and more sternly, and you should now get into the car, or you should now understand me. But neurodivergent kids, those things often make them worse. I would argue most kids, but they're just really set up for the certain ways that we think they should be able to understand language, or body language, for example, or facial expressions and things like that. That's our own bias. That you should understand that I'm upset because I've got my arms crossed, or because I'm frowning my brow. Like, you have to be really clear in what you're actually asking of them, and understand that a good way of thinking about it is that they're processing every bit of information in an environment. So you've got to make it as clear and easy as possible for them to pick up the bits that you really want them to. Otherwise, there's a vulnerability that they pick up the wrong stuff or get overwhelmed by how much is coming in, especially if it's conflicting or confusing.
Okay, good. I like that. Yeah, the metaphors, I can see how they can be confusing.
Yeah, totally. And I think you're so good at this, that all those things, like, vague and, ambiguous components of socialization, for example, that I'm not so good at. I miss it. And then what often happens with neurodivergent kids is they'll scrutinize afterwards. They'll be like, I stuffed it up, I messed it up, it's my fault, they didn't get the joke, I've ruined that friendship, and all that stuff. But it's about actually the other individual understanding what their needs are in simple things like communication.
Yep. Storybooks, by the way, are really good around this sort of thing.
Yeah.
Just, you've bought me a really cool set of books.
Oh, yeah, they're great, aren't they?
Yeah, but I'm actually onto this new one. It's not sponsored. Have you heard of Billy B. Brown or Hello Jack?
No,
oh, God, I'll give you that
first
set.
Name,
They're so good at this stuff. They just create scenarios. It's really good.
Yeah.
I don't know. I just really
understanding
love the books.
role play, imagination, all of that stuff is really powerful ways for kids to learn.
So we sit there and just pause a little bit. And it's 4 chapters. It's the same stuff over and over. It's really good. I'll give them to you because Evie probably should be set to go. This is so good. Anyway, just a shout out. Anyway, I like books.
Sponsoring the next step.
Okay, Billy. Hey, Billy. How to gently talk to my husband about the possibility our daughter is neurodivergent.
Got anything for this?
How do you soft sound it?
Yeah.
Do you do the explore it with them?
Yeah. How do you explore it? It's great.
What do you reckon? How do you reckon Billy's going?
Oh, he's fine. I mean, he drives me crazy. Needs to listen more.
Do you reckon he struggles to listen and follow direction?
Yeah. Are you kidding?
What do you reckon that's
Being
about?
in our house? Well, he just needs to get better at it.
You reckon he just needs more skills? I reckon that's the right attitude. Because I feel like we could skill them up.
Yeah, I don't know. I reckon, he just needs to realise I'm his dad, and what I say goes, and if he doesn't like it, it's up to him. But he's not going to see his iPad again.
Feels like a rough road.
Yeah, well, it's one that he's going to be on for a while if he doesn't sort it out.
Well, I don't know how to speak to you anymore.
Sorry. Yeah.
We should have really switched roles there.
Well, my thing would be like, I don't think it should be as hard as it is for him and as hard as it is for us.
Oh, yes.
Do you know what I mean?
Yeah, it is bloody tough. But he just needs to get a bit better, don't you reckon? Isn't that the fix?
Yeah, but I think we've been trying that for a while now.
And what, you just don't reckon it's working?
We're stuck, and I reckon we've got to do something differently.
Well, what else could we possibly do? It's the only thing I know.
Well, I think thinking about like what's going on for him, like I think you and I have each other and we're very good at talking to each other about what's going on for us, but I reckon little Billy's just shutting down so much, and I'm worried that he's anxious, he's really struggling, and he just doesn't see us as people that he can come to. So I reckon we've got to try and create some space for that.
Well, what would we do?
I think just enjoying him a bit more, about helping him understand that, it's okay to have those feelings. He can't act out and ignore us and yell at us and all that stuff because we can't help him. And I just think maybe for the next few weeks we have a shot at just making sure we're enjoying him every single day, just for a few minutes. He really understands how much we unconditionally love him and support him. And we try and understand when he's struggling what might actually be going on for him and what are the needs that are below it. And I reckon if we get stuck like this, it's not because we don't love him or not because we're good enough parents. I think probably we need to think about getting some support.
Right, but for a few weeks we just try and make it a bit more fun and enjoy him more, yeah?
Yeah, and just try and connect with him and understand, like just you and I having a chat after when he's struggling, like what might have been going on for him? What were the triggers? Was he scared? Was he anxious? Was he frustrated? What's leading into it? Because I don't reckon he's getting up in the morning thinking he wants to make life difficult for us. I think we're just all stuck in a rut.
Good point. I'm up for it.
Beautiful. Thanks.
All right.
Thanks, hon.
Not bad, Billy. Good.
Yeah, well,
I like the switch. Like, oh, this is really tough for us. Probably really tough for him.
Yeah,
Well
I think
done.
the biggest thing is it shouldn't be this hard for him and it shouldn't be this hard for us.
No,
and
it
I
shouldn't
agree
be
with
that
that.
hard.
We know like Australian national data shows us that 25% of parents say that they struggle with their kids' behaviour every single day. It shouldn't exist.
Right.
You went somewhere else.
There's a bit to do at home. Only 25%?
Yeah, every single day.
Okay. Yep. Good.
Yeah, it's interesting. I don't know if
Good
I've
to
spoken about that data before, but yeah, we found that nearly a third of people said that they wouldn't be able to recognise signs of, only a third of people said they'd be able to recognise signs of mental illness in their kids.
Oh, yeah.
Isn't that crazy?
No.
Every single kid, every single parent, every single caregiver, every single professional, that's what the podcast is about, should be able to recognise signs of emerging or established mental illness in their kids.
Okay.
And then a third of them said that they're best left alone. So a third of parents said mental illness problems in kids are best left alone. It's the opposite of what's true.
Okay. Hey, Billy, this is a great question. How to help a tween with intense RSD distinguish between real and perceived rejection? Follow-up question. Tween is like that kind of 11, 12, 13.
Yeah, the border of a teen.
Yep.
Just coming into teenage years.
Okay. And RSD is rejection sensitivity. It's
Dysphoria.
Dysphoria? I always
Yeah.
thought it was dysfunction.
Dysphoria. Just like
Somebody just like
overwhelming discomfort.
from rejection or perceived rejection, right?
Yeah.
They're
And that
just
kind of
like-
idea, and we talked about it last time, that mainly sits within the profile of ADHD.
Yeah. And they beat themselves up.
Yeah, they're just so sensitive and have had such experience of failure that they take everything personally, and just have this overwhelming negative response to any feedback that could be constructive, could be, maybe not about them, whatever.
Okay. All right. How do we help them distinguish between real and perceived rejection?
Yeah, so with both, it's always the first step, which is just that must be hard, and help them validate and help them understand they have an ally in you in the experience they're having, not someone who's telling them that they're wrong or minimising or dismissing it or going straight to
Solution.
actually, that's not true. They didn't mean it like that. It wasn't your fault, whatever. So we know, we've talked about this before, kids will often get stuck in dysfunctional thinking of, this is all my fault, it will always be this way and it'll impact every part of my life. That's classic dysfunctional thinking across the board of mental illness in teenagers and adults and kids.
That. Yeah.
Yeah, totally. It's just overmade.
Catastrophise. So they're catastrophizing in their head?
Yeah. So if you're catastrophizing, you've come home from a bad meeting at work.
Yep.
And you go, this is it, I'm not going to get the promotion, I'm worried I'm going to get fired. And I just go, mate, you're wrong. Like, it wasn't that big a deal. Like, I bet that's not true. Like, that's ridiculous. Of course, you're not going to lose your job and all this stuff. It's probably not going to help you, is it? Especially if you're completely emotionally overwhelmed. So just sitting with them and learning that regardless of whether it's real or just perceived, because in their mind it's all real, in their body, in their experience, it's all real, sitting and helping them go through that process. And then, not always then, there's a second step, which is about once you're calm and you're fine and you're through that, what else might have been contributing to it? Yep, definitely. It might be all your fault. It might be because they don't like you. Might because they think you're really bad at basketball and they never want you on the team. What else could it have been? But it's got to be in calm, it's got to be in partnership, it's got to be safe, all of that stuff. And you do it in the safest relationships in the safe environment when they're calm first. The last place you get good at any of this stuff is when you don't have the support, there's a lack of predictability, a lack of safety, emotional overwhelm, all of that stuff. So that's how. It's the 1-2 step.
Oh, the 1-2. Yep. And with the 1-2.
Yeah. Always the 1, sometimes the 2.
Always the 1. Yep, validate the feelings. Hey, Billy, last short question. You ready?
Yep.
For $1 million. No. Hey, Billy, how do we create systems that support neurodivergent people throughout life, not just school?
Yeah, it's such a great question, isn't it? Because it's so much of what we're doing is thinking about, like for me, a big part of the podcast and the social enterprise is like, how do I create a safer and healthier community outside of for my kids when I'm gone?
Mm-hmm.
Do you know what I mean? That's what I'm trying to do. That seems wild and completely arrogant and overly ambitious, but that's where I'll enjoy putting my energy. And yeah, it meets the need in me and blah, blah, blah. But I think there's a beautiful thing in that of like how I think schools are like really the last bastion of community, aren't they?
Yep.
When you think about it, like so many have fallen. And people will be like, oh, it's because of social media. Oh, it's because of smartphones and all that stuff. But it's because there's a need in us to connect that's been lost in other ways. And thinking about how can we actually support schools enough, resource schools enough with actual evidence-based, like, you know, it's a bit too specific, but randomised controlled trials with proper controls and all that stuff, and test systems that are co-designed with individual schools to meet their tailored needs.
Do you know anyone that's done that, Billy?
I do, yes. I don't want to bang on about the PhD too much, but my point is like, because that won't be the only method, but yeah, but do you know what I mean? Like my thing is like, schools can be the place that lead the way in this if they're appropriately resourced. The best thing that a school does is create a community that's inclusive of everyone. So neurodiversity is really important in this, isn't it?
Yes.
But that's the best thing that they can do.
Yep.
Like we've got such a prioritisation on the score the kid gets, how good they are at maths. Those are not the predictors of lifelong adult success. Being a partnership with community, adult mental health, relationships, even income, even like trajectory through school. It's the social and emotional environment. It's how safe the space is, how genuinely and truly inclusive it is. And I think schools can lead the way on this. They just need to be resourced to do so. But I think that's how we do it. Guiding Growing Minds goes into corporations. Like we do stuff with big banks and big organisations that sit outside of schools and build their capacity to identify and support kids that are struggling. But schools is where the focus is for me, because I think there's just so much that we can achieve there, but we just need to give the proper support and resources and space to do it, which means dropping a lot of other stuff. You know, you can't put more on educators' plates. You can't put more in those environments without taking stuff off them and giving them more space and support and training and money, blah, blah, blah.
Yep. Sorry, got a bit lost there as deep in thought on the subject of it.
I mean, you've got more experience with schools than I do, but I think there's, you know, if we can do it better, there's just so much potential to improve. And there's these what we call positive deviant schools. And I did research on this 8 years ago on positive deviant schools, which is a cool term, isn't it? It's like a school or a positive deviant. I like being called a deviant.
Divergent. Like
so just someone who's doing something differently but actually
sounds like a maverick.
Yeah, exactly. So maverick schools.
Renegade maverick.
And we know what maverick schools do without going deep into that research. We know what maverick schools do and they do stuff differently.
Okay.
They collaborate across the community. They're inclusive environments. They use the evidence. They have structured ways that support. They're proactive in how they support all their kids. They don't come in when a kid has been bullied and say, what are we going to do now? They've got a setup that actually works, that they evaluate and measure to ensure that kids aren't experiencing bullying. Remembering that 50%, just shy of 50% of kids with autism will experience significant bullying in their childhood. Wild.
Okay.
Yep. They're 3 to 4 times more likely to have suicidal ideation.
Okay.
You know, these are vulnerable kids because of the environment. Okay. And the school environment is the one that's best set up to use the evidence and be predictable and be safe, so that it can inform the rest of the community. And when kids get out of school, they go, the world shouldn't be like this. When they meet relationships or environmental workplaces that aren't genuinely inclusive, and they go, this isn't good enough, instead of, I just need to suck it up because I need to work. Does that make sense?
Yeah.
Yeah, that's how you do it. Ambitious, but let's see, in 20 years' time, I'd be like, who was I kidding? I hope not.
Don't think so, Billy.
Yeah, we'll see.
Hey, Billy, we're on to the longs. We've got 6 of them.
Yeah, amazing.
And then we'll have some advice at the end.
Yeah, some beautiful three to close out.
There we go. All right. Hi, Billy and Nick. I just wanted to send a quick email to say thank you. I stumbled across your podcast earlier in my parenting journey, and it's been such a valuable resource, full of honest insights, laughs, and lessons that have helped me grow, not just as a dad, but as a person. I've got 2 beautiful girls. One is 2, the other is 5, and they've both taught me more about myself in their short lives than I've learned in the 30 years before they came along. Our eldest was born at 32 weeks due to my wife having major placenta previa. She spent 4 weeks in NICU, neonatal intensive care unit, before we were finally able to bring her home. It took us both a long time to adjust to becoming parents after such a stressful and emotional start. It was a rough start. I can't imagine that. From an early age, our eldest demanded our full attention. She was never able to play independently and needed us constantly by her side. The only real way we could calm and soothe her was by reading, sometimes for hours each day. By the time she was 3, she could recite sentences of her favourite books from memory, often finishing the next few sentences before we could even turn the page. It was incredible, but also emotionally and physically draining at times. My wife is a maternal and child healthcare nurse and has picked up early signs that our daughter was showing some differences: unsettled sleep, extreme attachment, heightened emotional responses. Despite being a teacher for over 10 years, I wasn't sure what was happening, but I trusted my wife. After almost a year of appointments with various allied health professionals, she was diagnosed with autism late last year. Since then, I've thrown myself into learning everything I can to support her better. One of the most powerful resources I came across was yellow ladybugs, supporting autistic girls and gender diverse youth. It was a complete eye-opener, not just as a parent, but as a teacher. It helped me understand what masking looks like in girls, the social and emotional toll it takes, and why so many are missed or misunderstood. It answers a lot of questions I didn't even know I had. We're doing our best each day, but I won't lie, it's exhausting. Like so many parents of neurodivergent kids, we carry both deep love and deep concern. Our daughter is incredibly articulate and emotionally aware. During her meltdown, she'll often say, "I don't know what's wrong. I want to be good. I can't help it." Those moments break us. One thing that's both beautiful and heartbreaking is how our neurotypical 2-year-old daughter has developed such an incredible awareness of her sister's needs. She'll instinctively try to comfort her or help her settle. While it makes us so proud, I worry that because so much of our energy goes into our 5-year-old, our youngest needs aren't always being met in the way she deserves. That's a hard one to sit with. Our biggest concern is our eldest long-term mental health. We should be able to truly feel peace and happiness, whatever that means for her. And in a world that still doesn't fully support neurodiverse needs, how can we help her develop the mental health habits and resilience that will carry her through? I know there's no single answer, but I'd love to hear your thoughts. How do we give both our girls the best chance at a mentally healthy and meaningful life? Thanks again for the work you do. It matters more than you probably realise.
Yeah, rough start, isn't it? We know that we've been asked a fair bit recently actually to talk about that kind of medical trauma that happens a lot early in kids' lives and then trying to come back from that. And it's traumatic, and kind of that's where we've spoken about this before, but the idea of just shifting straight to resilience when, especially if the ongoing thing, whether it's medical trauma or something else, is continuing to happen. I think we don't realise, we speak to this about the fellows a lot, is that this child doesn't have a history of developmental trauma. They're in active developmental trauma because they're changing foster homes. They're still in an environment that overwhelms them and causes them significant anxiety. That's really common in neurodivergent kids, like things like that. And so you can't shift towards resilience or let's put in proactive mental health supports so that this kid will, not relapse, because you're like, no, they're actively in an environment they don't feel safe now. We need to sort that out first. And it's a really common thing. I think the other thing, the reason that so many questions, like the hardest thing is the ones we don't pick. But the reason of that is there's 2 bits in it, isn't there? There's the sibling, and I think siblings are really important in this context. And I don't know what it was like for you, but I grew up being parentified.
What's that mean?
Having to be a parent. My older brother had to be a parent for me and my little brother. I had to be a parent as well. And it really sabotages a healthy relationship through your childhood, but especially in adult life when you get back to that, because, there's a lot of conflict, there's a lot of resentment, there's a lot of those things. So thinking about how do I let these kids just be siblings and have the space to stuff it up. We've talked about before, how do we make sure in a realistic way, that's really hard if one kid is really struggling, but I also have space to celebrate and joy and support the other kid or other kids. Charlie he's such a cruiser. He's like his mum, he's just turned 2. Like, he doesn't need much support. The vulnerability is that, like we've seen with his language development, is that he doesn't get much attention. And so whereas Evie is just, you're so drawn to her, she has such big emotions and all that stuff that she fills spaces. So without sabotaging my relationship with her, I've really lent into time and joy and specific things like reading with Charlie. And now there's a little bub as well that's around. I need to be extra protective of Charlie. Like, all of our kids have individual needs and we shouldn't be the same with them. I think that we often hear that in clinic about why they're different. I was the same with both of them, but you actually shouldn't be the same with both of them. There should be consistency in boundaries and things like that, but not in how we meet their social and emotional needs. Does that make sense?
Yep.
The idea of like how, this is what I worry about, like how do we build a proactive, sorry, you go.
Can you run in seasons though? Like with...
I just roll my eyes because I love all this like seasons or leaps or like...
No, you and I will never line up on leaps. I believe in leaps so hard. Well, not that you're saying you don't.
I believe in stuff.
No, sorry.
It's like the
sorry,
love
not
language
that
stuff.
Sorry.
It's just like...
I know, sorry. I shouldn't say you don't believe in it, but I'm like, I think it's a leap and I'm so firm on leaps. I'm like, it's a 2 week...
if that stuff helps you think
helps
about
you.
what the kid needs, what you need and all that stuff, I'm all for it.
I'm always like, something's just expanding for 2 weeks. It helps me get through the 2 weeks or write it off. And then when it settles, I believe in like just these things. Anyway, but like, isn't there like a time in your life where that kid's just going to occupy way more of your energy than the other one?
Yeah, but if you've got one kid that's like needing every bit of energy you've got, you just got to think about the experience of the other kid watching that, how it makes them feel, how do you actually know what their needs are? Like, and it's interesting to think about this in multiple neurodivergent kids as well. We medically have this obsession with like level of functioning or like severity, but you might look at, say, an autistic child who's level 3 of support needs, who's non-verbal, who's like self-harming and stuff, and you go, that kid needs heaps of help.
Yep.
I need to give them heaps of attention. You might look at the kid who's verbal and academically really bright and really thriving at school and like has heaps of extracurricular activities and all that stuff as, they don't need me. But what are they actually doing? How much effort are they putting in to be okay?
Oh.
Do you know what I mean?
Right.
Like, if you got one of your kids that you're like, I'm not really worried about them, what are you gauging that off? Do you know what I mean?
Yeah. Just probably because they can socially cope and get by and everything's
exactly,
pretty cool.
But we shouldn't wait for them to drown to be like, I'll go to you now.
No. I get that. I get that.
Do you know what I mean?
I know what you mean, but then there's the practical side.
Yeah, but I think you've got to find some space somewhere, which is hard to say because I know how much a lot of people are struggling, especially single parents. But how do I just find some space to check in, celebrate, have a sanctuary for that other kid? I think it's a really important bit. The mental health side of like, we know, especially in neurodivergent kids, like what are the things that soothe them? What are the things they enjoy? We've already heard about it with this beautiful kid that they just love. Like
being read to.
Being read to. Like there's something really beautiful in that, isn't it? That they're like, it was exhausting. There's been this huge benefit from language, but I bet it wasn't just language. It would have been soothing. It would have been the rhythm. It would have been the connection. You know what I mean? Like mental health first aid tells us so much of that, of just like, I can sit here and talk to you in a way that hopefully means you connect with me and have calm. Now, if I don't, but I mean, this is therapeutic for me because I get every fortnight 1 or 2 hours to just sit with you. And I'm in this world. I'm thinking about who's going to listen to it, but I'm 100% here with just you. I'm not thinking about other stuff. So how do we make sure that we build those things? Like that's what works for me. This is what works for that kid when they're a little bub, and they'll probably carry that the rest of their life. How do we make sure we protect time and space for those type of things? Every single kid will be different in that. And that's why we think about, for example, differentiating repetitive behaviours of something like autism and repetitive behaviours of OCD. So if you think about, obsessional compulsive behaviours that sit within OCD, they're often because the kid needs to do something over and over again because they're so anxious. And that anxiety has a loop in it. That they do it slightly relieves the anxiety but feeds that I constantly need to do this. and they don't fit with like who that person is. They cause them distress and discomfort. Whereas the repetitive soothing behaviours that we see, for example, in children with autism, is something that is in sync with who they are. Like I'm someone who loves crafting. So I sit and hyper-focus and do this thing over and over again. I line up the toy car and I do it over and over again because it soothes me. It's what I enjoy. It's what I'm into. It's what I'm passionate about. Those are, especially within neurodivergent kids, those are the protective things for their mental health. A lot of old school therapy pushed that down and said, that's not normal, stop doing it. Whereas what we actually are learning now is we need to actually create environments, opportunities and space to prioritise those patterns and those rhythms and those specific things that each individual kid does so that they carry it through their adult life and go, that's what I love doing. Like there's certain things that I do, there'd be certain things that you do that I just do, that I do over and over again. And a lot of the time I go into dysfunctional spaces like drinking wine, eating crap food, whatever, because I haven't had space for the healthier patterns and behaviours that I do. So thinking about each individual kid in their lives, I know what they are for Evie, I know what they are for Charlie, I'm learning what they are now for another little bub. Do you know what I mean? Like, and I need to make sure they get an opportunity to do that.
Yep.
Like, and for both of Charlie and Evie, activity and energy are a big part of what helps them and soothes them and keeps them happy, and that will protect their mental health. And I've got to create spaces for that instead of saying, hey, calm down, settle down, stop doing that. Because a lot of the time, especially out in public, you're just worried about what people are thinking about you.
Yeah.
Do you know what I mean? We had the amazing Tom Brunzello for dinner and it was just wild. And I was like, early on, I was like, this is not good. Like, these kids should be sitting still and they should be eating and they should be. And I was like, no, this is what every meal is like for us. And it's like, it's cool, it's beautiful. Like, but this cultural pressure comes in of like, no, this is what they've got to be like, especially out in public.
Yeah, I wrestle with that one. Hey, Billy, question 2.
Yeah, sorry, I'll take the hint.
No hint, no clue. Just saying. This is the second question of 6.
Thank you.
Just saying.
Yeah.
Just want to say thank you for talking about more about neurodivergent children and something. Sorry, let me start again. Just want to say thank you for talking about neurodivergent children and something I would love to hear about, especially deep diving into PDA. Our 5-year-old son was diagnosed with ASD level 2 and ADHD combined type only a few months ago. I've known for a couple of years, but most paediatricians we have been to see dismissed it as normal behaviour for boys of that age and doesn't present typical autistic signs as in stimming, lining up toys, no eye contact, etc., as if that defines autism. I pushed and advocated for my child and I finally went straight to a psychologist who did a comprehensive psychological assessment which diagnosed him, something I would love to hear about in any information regarding aggressive, violent behaviour in autistic ADHD children. We work with an OT, psych and behavioural therapist, yet our son gets suspended and sent home from school each week due to hitting, kicking, biting, throwing. We don't qualify for special needs because we don't qualify for a special needs school because there is no intellectual disability verified on top of the ASD, and there is only one private school here for autistic children, which we can't afford, plus the wait list is years away. The school we are in has an incredible inclusion and support team, and we have had plenty of meetings, and I know he is well looked after, but him lashing out is something I don't know how to help with. Is it due to demands? Is it impulse control? Is it out of fear? How am I supposed to figure this out? Yes, such good questions. Can we focus on those ones, Billy? Sometimes I can catch the trigger, but sometimes we can't. Every time he is told no, or when going from preferred to non-preferred activity, it's a full meltdown tantrum of throwing and hitting. I'm giving warnings, choices, timers, reminders, visual clues, visual cues, visual stories, and still, when it comes to transition, it all goes out the window anyway. I was not expecting a solution, just a request if it can be discussed during the podcast episode, maybe. That's Is it demands, impulse control? Is it out of fear? Am I supposed to figure it out? How do you figure it out what it is?
Yeah, so really good question. I'd say if I had to guess, like I don't, but it's the third one. It's fear.
Fear.
So yeah, fear. So it's really interesting. So PDA, or pathological demand avoidance, a kind of phrase, is persistent demand for autonomy. Is not really a clinical diagnosis yet. It mainly sits within a diagnosis of autism. And I meet a lot of kids in clinic that are like this. And what we're really talking about is a child that really struggles with the daily kind of demands, requests, whatever of life. And there's constant pushback, constant conflict, constant...
Well, like the rigour of being places on time in school, sitting in class.
Yeah.
Just like, hey, mate, you got to sit and read. They just can't do that.
Yeah. Yeah.
Or it's hard.
Yeah, definitely. Yeah, it was like how, it was good how you said they just won't or refuse or whatever. It's really interesting. I remember a kid that I inherited years ago, actually, off a retiring developmental paediatrician who, she's one of my mentors. She's amazing. And this boy was like this. He's a teenager now. He's autistic and has PDA. And he... I remember once, to be 100% honest, I struggled with him initially because he was just a lot of things that kind of, in my simplistic brain, was like, you're smart enough, you're capable of doing this, you're making everyone, including your mum's life, pretty tough, unintentionally. And this mum kept saying, like, because, the system is pretty broken. They were like, just late to meetings, appointments, blah, blah, blah. Like, we tried to flex and all this stuff. So I'd hardly ever have any time with him. And she was like, can you just spend some time with him, just you and him? And I was like, God, the next family's waiting and all this stuff. And I finally was like, cool, let's just give me 10 minutes with him. And I just sat with him and connected with him and all this stuff. And then I was talking to him about it. And he was like, oh, I don't like not doing this stuff. I don't like how hard it is. I don't want it to be this way. And it's really interesting from a PDA perspective. That's what we often see through the research when they talk to these teenagers or adults that have gone through that. They're like, no, I wanted to do those things. I just couldn't because I was so anxious about it. So it's an interesting thing to think about. Yeah, it's this fear. And they will often compensate with what, really derogatory language talks about in the clinical literature of social manipulation, but that's not what it truly is. What they talk about is they'll often divert attention, like use jokes, use compliments to get around what the demand is, which like infuriates the parent or the teacher because they're like, just do what I told you to do. Often unintentionally, we make it worse by things like rewards and punishments, but that's really for these kids just an increased demand that you're placing on them. Is you also need to meet this need of like, you'll get the reward if you do it, and it places more pressure on them and they lose autonomy, so they lose sense of choice, and they really struggle with it. They'll often really, interestingly, be quite good socially at a superficial level, but struggle with any depth, and they'll often compensate for that by being in like leaning into imaginary play, for example, because they're like, I can become this thing, I can use this scaffolded imaginary play to compensate for the fact that I actually struggle socially. And so that feeds their anxiety as well. We'll talk a lot about what we do about it because we got asked about PDA so much. It's also really important. ODD, oppositional defiant disorder, I don't use as a diagnosis. I think the risk is too high. I speak about that in the book a fair bit. But people often get confused between PDA and ODD. PDA is anxiety associated with a loss of choice or autonomy. ODD is anger that's directed towards authority. And it's really important. Those are two different things and distinctions.
So more rules and rigour for PDA won't be helpful.
Beautiful. So which goes against our advice around autism, doesn't it? Because we talk about autism, predictability. It has to be predictable.
Yeah, you have to talk me through this one, mate.
Yeah, so it's really great because a lot of kids will go, well, you're autistic, you want things to be consistent, you want it to be predictable, you want it to be the same every time. The kid who has PDA will struggle with that because they're like, I don't have a choice. So a simple example is, instead of saying, hey, we're getting in the car, we're going to go, you go, how about you're the person that chooses the way we go? So you're giving them autonomy, you're giving them choice, you're using play. We know play works a lot for these kids. Play. This parent talks about how
play works a lot.
Play is beautiful. Play is really important for this. Like classic example, some of the literature talks about instead of you have to brush your teeth now and it's conflict, your toothbrush is loaded. It's ready to go. It's a choice. They then choose to go and do that. Also using language of we. How do you reckon what do you reckon is the best approach for us together to back up all the toys? You know, so things like that instead of like authority standing over, like taking away their autonomy.
Yeah, it's actually just chiming in. Like I hear you say this, and then I go, "Oh, that sounds a little bit tiring." But then I think about the other way, yelling at my kid, and I'm like, "That's way more exhausting." And
it also doesn't work.
Doesn't work. Yeah, it doesn't work.
So
or you get compliance, which I'm really sensitive about compliance. Okay, God, that's good, Billy. So play.
Yes. Yeah. So play, choice. You know, thinking.
So it's disguised rigor in a sense.
Yeah.
Is it?
Yeah. But also you've got to understand there's got to be flexibility and stuff.
It's got to be flex in it.
So
a choice in how you do it.
You know, the universal, which I never like universal one size fits all stuff, but often with autism we say like,
how should we go to school? Walk,
always
bike,
exactly
drive?
the same. Yeah. We're like, no, someone with autism needs everything to be the same every time. That's not true.
Yep.
Especially with PDA, is put choice within it.
So PDA is more anxiety.
Yeah.
Or autism is more autistic needs function. Okay, yep.
Yeah, does that make sense?
Yeah,
Like
it
it's
makes
a
sense.
dysfunctional component
I like it.
that, it just changes the way that we do it. We could do heaps on PDA, but maybe we'll figure out a way because it probably isn't an entire topic, but there's so much literature on PDA and how we can actually be helpful with it. But just thinking that it's based in fear and how do I put flex? How do I understand the common demands? Like what are the demands this kid really struggles with and how do we do something different with them to take conflict and dysfunctional disharmony out of the way that we work together? Do you know what I mean? So and you can probably look at that. You can probably look at your day. I can look at my day. I can look at my day and go, these are the points that we always clash at.
Yeah.
How do I change what I'm doing to help so that doesn't happen?
Yep. Glad you took the time on that question. It was really good.
Okay.
Well done. Hey, Billy. Dear Dr. Billy and Nick, I only found your podcast a few months ago, and despite being married to my beautiful red-headed husband, I seem to be spending more time listening to the two of you lately as I catch up on previous episodes. I have been a primary teacher for 10 years, and I'm a mum of a beautiful 2-year-old boy. Since returning to teaching part-time, I feel privileged to be in the position to guide and support both my own son and the students that I teach. Your episode on nurturing neurodiversity really struck a chord with me. I've been in the position as a teacher several times where I have evacuated a classroom because a student is having a meltdown, throwing chairs, desks, swearing, hurting other children. I feel emotional to think about the fact that this is the most unsafe child in these situations was the child melting down and that they were left alone in the classroom. I also felt unprepared and unsupported in these scenarios and was just doing what I thought was best. Because of what I have now learned through your podcast and book, I know I would handle these situations differently. The part I struggle with is how to nurture all students in the classroom or a whole school level. Our typical class size is 32. 1 year, 13 students in my class had individual support plans. I was overwhelmed keeping up with the paperwork, meeting for these plans, let alone the practical component of actually implementing strategies and meeting the needs of these 13 students. Not to mention the other 19 students who, of course, also need guidance and support academically and emotionally each and every day. I often drive home feeling low about this, and the never doing enough feeling is overwhelming. Despite my efforts, I feel the workload of teachers is growing more, and this pulls us away from the really important work with students. I'm refreshed now being in a part-time position as I feel I have more capacity in my workday to support students with their emotional regulation, relationships and connection. This has become my top priority since becoming a mother and finding pop culture parenting, and a big reframe as I previously prioritised academic results. Do you have any advice for schools that are completely stretched with high student numbers, high levels of student needs, and the demands of curriculum, paperwork, meetings, events? Where do we even start? Can I make a difference in my class of 32, or is this bigger than me and my school and needs massive systemic change? Thank you from the bottom of my heart for everything you do. I'm a better mum and teacher because of you both.
Right. I've got
Which
an
part are you
answer.
going to tackle? Oh, go. All
I've
right.
got an answer,
Get it.
but it's actually not from me. It's from the amazing Rebecca Harris.
Oh,
So
did you reach out to Beck?
Yes, so Beck, who is doing a lot with GGM now, and reach out if you would like her to come and do stuff with you.
Now only ever guest on the podcast.
Yes, the only ever guest, but she obviously has 2 decades of experience in schools, being like wellbeing lead and doing amazing stuff. Which is when I met her a long time ago. She's also a trained counsellor, so she does work with kids and adults. But this is her answer to that question, which I just think is beautiful. Oh, wow. I really feel this. You know, what comes to mind for me first off is that you can't meet the needs of every student all the time. I've been doing some group and individual work with a wellbeing team in a secondary school recently, and I talk to teachers all the time in a range of different schools, and the reality is that teachers and school staff are working in a system that is not fit for purpose. The tools offered to teachers are not good enough to meet the needs of students they teach. And yet, what power educators have to positively impact the lives of students. I've been the person in the room with the chair thrower, and I do think it's important that someone is in that room with the student where possible. In these situations, my approach is a minimal and gentle presence. My message is, I'm here, I want to keep you safe, I see how upset you are, I understand. In my experience, what helps children more than anything else is to feel felt, a Dan Siegel phrase. To know you get them, what a gift this is. It's not always possible to do this in the moment, but there will be a moment to show a student in a situation like this that you see them beyond their behaviour. The evidence around supporting student behaviour centres a lot around co-regulation. This means that any adult supporting a child in a situation like you described needs to be coming from the most regulated place they can. And this means educators need to be aware of their own state. In maintaining our own self-awareness, we can tap into one of the most powerful tools any educator has, modelling. The challenges our students have are the same challenges we have, and when it comes to emotional regulation. So many of the kids I see in my clinic think they're the only one who feel the way they do. Educators can let their students know what is happening internally for them. They can share when they feel frustrated and what it looks like on the outside and feels like on the inside, and what they do when they experience this. And this can be done for all emotions. This helps every student understand that all feelings are acceptable and normal and expected. If you bring the focus you mentioned of emotional regulation, connection and relationship to school, you're doing the most important work of all. This work builds a sense of self, capacity to trust self and others, and self-belief. And as a big bonus, the evidence tells us this builds skills relating to social and emotional learning, increases academic achievement too. The resilience, rights and respectful relationship resources are such an asset to any educator when it comes to social emotional learning. They're from Victoria, but freely available online. They're evidence-based, accessible and filled with lesson plans. My message for all educators is that on your trip home, and I've driven home in tears many, many times, yes, let the tears out for the challenges our students and we live with, but ask yourself, what was I able to do today that aligns with my values and my sense of purpose? Make this your focus. Perhaps you remembered a student was doing something fun on the weekend and you checked in with them about it. Perhaps you noticed a student looking out of sorts and you asked or gave them a smile. Perhaps you told a parent that their child did a great job with something. There are so many things in a school day that mean educators are doing what they do, that they're there to do, and these things deserve more of your reflection time than those things you wish you could, but can't. And in the background, we can all keep pushing for the system to be better. Beautiful.
Well done, Beck.
That'll get me. Yeah, what a champion. So yeah, reach out because she's doing heaps of stuff regarding her own mind. So reach out.
Amazing answer. Dear Dr. Billy and Nick, I just wanted to say thank you for the episode 110, The Green Mile and Nurturing Neurodiversity. I've been an avid listener for quite a while now and recommend the podcast to absolutely everyone, regardless of whether they are, will be, have been or never been planning to be parents. Every episode makes you feel both seen and stretched, and this one in particular brought a lot of big feelings to the surface for me. There was a moment in the episode that really landed for me when Dr. Billy said, often the disability component is actually the world. It's not the kid or the person. It's the world that says, sit for an hour in the chair you feel uncomfortable within 1 minute and learn from a teacher that teaches in a way that your brain can't actually pick up. That was the moment I paused the episode, sat in silence and cried. That quite beautifully encapsulates something I lived and felt, both as a student and later as a teacher, long before I had the language to articulate it. You spoke about the young girl who didn't even feel she could give herself permission to be quirky weird. That was me. My biggest fear has always been that my weirdness would isolate me and be intolerable. That sense of not fitting in the world around me was one of the most constant threads throughout my childhood and adolescence, and it has taken me nearly 39 years and the help of a deeply loving and accepting family and friendship group. One I was lucky to find mostly through music and creative communities, not through school, to finally allow myself to be weird and to understand that my needs and the way I process the world are not only valid but worth honouring. That shift has bled into every part of my life, especially my work, after years of trying to meet the demands of a system that was not built for me, first as a student, then as a teacher in an SEN school.
It's social, special emotional needs. Sorry.
Okay. I finally had...
A special school.
Yeah, okay. I finally had the opportunity to create something new. I now run my own art-based education business, and when I opened my studio space, the little art den, it was built with one clear goal: to make space for the way people actually learn and feel and move through the world, especially those who don't fit the standard mould. Everything I've experienced, observed and learned over time through inclusive education training, through my own lived experience and through trial and error, now forms the backbone of my approach. In my studio, I finally have the autonomy to adjust the lights, the space, the instruction, the environment, the expectations without an exam board or outsider breathing down my neck. I can meet people where they are instead of forcing them to learn at a pace pushed for them. Sorry, I don't know the word. Sorry. Unsuited to them. God. Okay, I got there. Goodness. Hey, it's been not just a gift to the people who come through the door, but an anchor for my own mental health, a reclamation of the teaching confidence I'd started to lose when I was still bound to rigid systems and asked me to be someone I couldn't sustain. But where I'm still struggling and where I hope your insight might help is in parenting. I'm a neurodivergent mother partnered with a neurodivergent father, raising children who are showing me signs of being neurodivergent themselves. ASD runs through 2 generations on their father's side, diagnosed post-15, and ADHD runs through mine. My children, still very young, are starting to show signs we both recognise far too well. And here's what I find myself asking. How do I, as a neurodivergent adult, with my own needs and triggers, minimise the impact of those challenges on my children, particularly when those needs are being triggered by theirs? When I was a teen, my coping mechanisms were mostly solitary reading, drawing, getting lost in music, disassociation masked as creative focus. But those don't translate well into parenting, especially when we're in the thick of it. I can't disappear into a book in the middle of a breakfast meltdown. I can't drown my sensory overload with headphones while also trying to co-regulate with a child who finds co-regulation overstimulating. So many of the behaviours I've worked hard to manage in myself, emotional reactivity, difficulty shifting gears, sensory overwhelm, are now being mirrored back at me in real time by my child. And it's exhausting. We try so hard to be gentle, to co-regulate, to use all the things I know from a professional standpoint, but it's like trying to soothe fire with fire when our nervous systems are already in survival mode. It's starting to take effect on our relationship, our parenting confidence and our mental well-being. It's not a crisis, but it is constant. And I know we're not the only family navigating this space trying to use all the tools and still burning out. My question is this: how can neurodivergent parents support their neurodivergent children when everyone in the room is already overstimulated on the edge of their window of tolerance? What does good enough parenting look like when calm doesn't come easily to anyone involved and your animal brain is trying to push you to run away or fight back whilst your logical brain is repeating that this is just a child? I'm doing my best to create space professionally that honours individual needs. I want to figure it out how to keep doing that at home, even when a lot of days are running on empty. Thanks for continuing to make the space for the questions and for the care and clarity, and when clarity with which you speak to both signs and the heart behind them. A homesick Aussie in Scotland. So let's go back to the question. So my question is, how can neurodivergent parents support their neurodivergent children when everyone in the room is overstimulated and on the edge of their window of tolerance?
Yeah, and sorry, special education needs, I just got caught up in, is the school, the specialist school, that's what SEN stands for. I just got caught up in the, like, whenever someone says, like, something we've said has caused them to cry, I was like, get quite emotional myself.
No worries.
Yeah, so it's a really important point. We're actually going to focus on it in the topic that's coming up completely. Okay. But I don't know if you experience this. Do you experience, like, outside of, like, having a diagnosis or identifying as neurodivergent, that kind of emotional overwhelm and you can't meet the needs of one of or both of your kids?
Yes.
Yeah. Yep. So how do you, what do you do in those moments? And then how do you feel when you reflect back on it?
I try and check myself as soon as I have the emotional, like, and it'll be like I'll slam something, like a door.
Yeah.
And then I go, oh, that's a bit full on.
Yeah.
Or like I put something down, like when I'm cleaning the dishes last night, I was like, oh, like I can hear the fight happening. And I'm like, oh, I have to go to like 2 rooms over and fix it. I'm like, oh.
Yeah.
Then I go, oh, I'm a bit up. And I'll, like if Henry's around, I'll kind of look to her and she'll be like, and I'm like, oh, I'm up. And then I'll just try and calm a little bit. But yeah.
Yeah.
Like when I'm doing the dishes.
You can do that and then go into the room calm?
No, not immediately. I need to take a breather and then try and fix it. Yeah. I just try and like catch myself doing it and then, yeah.
And how have you learned to do that?
Oh, because going in hot just makes it worse.
Yeah. Yeah, that's that like meeting fire with fire that this person talks about.
It's going to turn into a firefight.
Yeah. And what about the idea of like this triggering you so much, like say the behaviour of kids or anything in your life triggering you so much, and then what do you do about that? Like if you notice you're going through a window where you're getting triggered a lot.
Yeah.
What do you
do? Kind of like what you were saying where they're just like what I would classify as misbehaving.
Yeah.
And they're probably just acting like a 5 and 7-year-old.
Yeah. Yeah, totally. I mean, beautiful. But yeah, in the moment, that's probably hard.
Yeah, it's really hard.
And if you're going through a window, say a week where that's happening a lot.
Yeah. Plus work and everything else and no sleep and all that jazz.
What do you do about it? Because I actually feel like you have a healthier approach than me to this.
I don't know. I don't know now that you ask me. I just keep moving forward and try and figure it out.
Do you, like, so I know what I do. I catastrophize. Like, I get really stressed.
Yeah.
I dissociate. I do all the things this person's talking about. What do you do?
What's dissociate mean?
That's like my classic dissociation is I like go into often my phone and the socials and like. Yeah.
Okay. Yeah, I do that.
Yeah. It's interesting to think about. Like, I think that there's a difference in individuals, especially neurodivergent individuals who go into things that soothe them and dissociation. And that's why I thought it was beautiful that this long question says like this hyper focus that was, masking a dissociation. And I think that we should see that as a symptom that we're struggling and need to look after ourselves more, as opposed to a healthy thing that we go towards that helps us. Does that make sense? Like, I can clearly differentiate in my daily life where I'm stressed, where I'm going towards something that helps me, or when I'm going towards something that is a symptom, such as burying myself in my phone. The stress is kind of causing me to go to something that takes me out of what's in front of me. Do you know what I mean? In a not a mindfulness way, in a destructive way. And I think your healthy approach of like, I think you're very good at like being like, cool, we got to get through this day or this week. But I think you're probably good at trying to recenter yourself towards balance and not catastrophizing. Do you think that's...
Yeah, I still catastrophize.
Yeah, I don't want to be dismissive of you struggling with it. I'm just saying, I don't... Yeah, I don't... Like, you're quite good at not holding on to stuff, like beating yourself up for a long period of time. Like
probably better at not talking about it, to be honest.
Yeah, but do you think is that because you're burying it and that harms you? Or do you think that...
I'll figure it out later.
Yeah, but I feel like you do figure it out later. Like I've seen you...
Yeah, process it. Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah, you've also got this beautiful analytical way that you will like write stuff down and map stuff out.
Yeah, I do.
I've seen you do that heaps times and it's really cool. So that's a healthy way that you will problem solve.
Yeah.
isn't it?
Yeah.
Like you'll map stuff out. I know you do it in your head. I know you do it visually on paper with a pen. Like
Love numbers,
Yeah, but you do that about lots of different parts of your life, don't you?
Yep.
Like supporting the kids, and then you even talk about this. You're like, I just want to know what to do.
Yeah.
So I think you go to action quite well.
It's like
whether it's a house renovation, it's like thing for the chooks, it's how to help the girls.
Whatever
You're like, what do I do? Like, what do I...
Like, I don't like to sit in the, the diagnosis or the thinking about things for a long time. I'm like, yep, great. How do we get out? Like, what are we going to move forward with?
Yeah, so I think that's a beautiful thing in you that I try and pick up off you a bit of like, and I do, like something will come up in the pod where someone will give us some feedback or something and I'll be stuck in it and I can talk to you and you're like very good at being like, this is the approach I think and this is why. Like, so there's a couple of things in this very quickly because I'm giving such long answers. It's thinking about how like we can actually role model to people, to our kids that I'm actually struggling with this. Don't shield them from that.
Started doing that.
Yeah. So like Beck said to the teachers, I'm saying this to that parent, don't think you're doing something wrong to your kids and showing them that you struggle with what your triggers are and what your needs are and what your dysfunctional coping mechanisms are. I think from quite a young age we can help kids see that. Also take it as a signal that I selfishly need more support so that I can help this kid more, as opposed to I just need to go into this dissociation more. That's a sign for me, and I think for this parent, that they need more support. And then think about how do I find the processes in my life that help me through this and get to a place of more balance where I can look after my own mental health more, all of that stuff. But I promise this is going to come up as an entire topic.
Okay.
Yeah.
What's the topic?
Have I answered that enough?
Yeah. What's the topic going to be?
Well, I'll...
Okay. Oh,
because I'm going to give you a clue at the end.
Oh, okay, right. Yes, clue. No, the movie. Yes. Hey, Billy, question 5, 2 to go. Then we've got some long advice.
Yeah.
Long-time listener, first-time poster. I'm so thankful for your podcast. It's helped me enormously, both as a parent and as a teacher. I had to write in for this episode because it hits close to home. Our household has what we like to call a generous sprinkling of neurodiversity. All 3 of our children are neurodivergent, each amazing in their own way. But let's introduce you to our second born, our fiery little girl. She has always marched to the beat of her own drum, diagnosed with ADHD, autism and PDA profile. She carries a sparkle in her eye, an insatiable curiosity about the world, and an out-of-the-box mind that dreams up solutions I could never imagine. Yet, as she moves through school, she's now in year 3, I see the sparkle fading, her curiosity narrowing and her creative thinking shrinking. She's blessed with caring teachers, support staff and allied health professionals, but the system itself makes it hard for kids like her. I see it in my work too. I've met with passionate teachers who want to champion the neurodivergent students in their classrooms, but how do we change a system that wasn't built for them? How do we create schools where kids can ditch their shoes if they're uncomfortable, learn outside when it suits them, and be guided not by tests and data, but by their well-being and needs? I know there's no quick fix for a system that has been entrenched for so long, so here is my question. How do we support neurosparkly kids when the system is changing more slowly than they are growing up? How do we encourage them to keep sparkling every day in a world that often tries to dim them? Thanks so much.
Yeah, beautiful. So quickly on this one, like, yes, the system is it's moving way too slowly. But I think we can think about those environments and how do they celebrate them. And like the example of like, ditch their shoes and all that stuff is like going into those communities and, actually being positive contributors to how do we make sure every single kid in here feels safe first, but then feels celebrated and feels like they contribute. Like do you know what I mean? Every single kid needs those specific things to happen for them every single day that they're in a school environment. But schools need those parents that have the capacity to come in and contribute to that. Do you know what I mean? They need the therapists, the clinicians to go into the school, not just send in reports that have like 20 demands, but to be like, I'm going to come into your space and help. That's the best therapists do that. They go in because my experience doing that, I learned more than I taught, but also, I can then combine the strengths that I have and the knowledge that I have and skills and give it to the real world. So I think what we need to do is do this, and we need to do it especially for these kids, because these are some of our most vulnerable kids because the environment is not fit for them. So that's how we do it. We change the environment, we go in and think about it. We also need to actually measure how these kids are going. Like my PhD had one way of doing it. There's a lot of different ways, but how do we actually know how our kids are going? And that's not a report card that says they're at reading level or behind or ahead. That's, do they feel safe here? Do they feel celebrated here? You know, do they feel like they contribute to this? And I would argue the parents should feel like that, the educators should feel like that, every staff should feel like that. Our schools and our clinics and everything should be seen as owned by the community. Do you know what I mean? Like, those are places that's how we make sure that there's a collective ownership and responsibility. I say that in all the PD that I do. I say at the start of it, I'm like, there's a collective responsibility of how well this goes, so that if it doesn't go well, I'm like, this wasn't my fault. But do you know what I mean? Thinking about that as schools, like, you have a collective responsibility in your school environment.
Yeah, you do, yeah.
Yeah, do you know what I mean? Of how well it goes. And by thinking about your kids in that school environment and having their needs met, you're also thinking about every single kid there.
Yeah,
do you know
all
what
important.
I mean? Yeah, and so shifting away from things like this is the set structure to actually how do we meet the needs? Safety first, then emotional, social, capacity, development, all those components. Academic learning last. Mm-hmm. You know, it's got to be in that order, and we're finding a lot of rigidity that's pushing back against that. But we'll keep working on it. So, yeah, it's a really good one.
Cool.
But yeah.
Hi, Nick and Billy. Last question.
Yeah, cool.
Hi, Nick and Billy. Thank you for the podcast. It's changing lives every day. I was wondering if you could please talk about trauma and its effects on neurodivergent kids. I have 3 sons, 8, 5 and 3. My 8-year-old is an AU ADHD who also has severe anxiety. He also was diagnosed with epilepsy 2 years ago and started AED, which significantly changed his behaviour. My husband died 18 months ago. Our boys were 6, 3 and 1 at the time. My middle and younger sons have coped with it much better than my eldest. His anxiety presents as violent aggression outbursts, which require me to bear hug to keep him and others safe. He tells me afterwards that it's something comes over him and he can't stop it from happening. He's no longer able to attend school. I withdrew him when he started telling me he wanted to die. Should have died instead of his dad. He actively avoids spending time with other children because he is worried about having a meltdown and hurting someone. It's also come to light that he has been quite severely bullied at school by the older children, but he wasn't able to verbalise this at the time. It's like all of his pro-social skills have disappeared. Can they be relearned with support? I'm also wondering if his outbursts have become a learned behaviour. At school, following my husband's death, no one would recognise he was struggling, ignored the early cues that he wasn't okay until he was exploding, throwing chairs, and then they call me to come and get him. Can this subconsciously now be his brain's way of being removed from uncomfortable, overwhelming situations? I asked him recently what he was good at. His reply was messing up, which broke my heart. He's such a thoughtful, deep-feeling, sensitive child who has had so much trauma in the last 2 years. I wonder if we can get back to the place we were previously when he loved school, would go to the playground safely. Billy, best of luck with the transition to 3. It's a wild ride. Got nothing. No. Well, I mean, I'd only offer really superficial, crappy advice. I don't think it'd be much good.
No, I don't think you would. I think that my advice is you can definitely get back to that. I've seen hundreds and hundreds of kids get back to it because of phenomenal parents like that one. Yeah. Couple of things, because I know I'm running long. Social skills, like especially, they're never lost. You just get caught in loops of dysfunctional patterns. There's this really cool, like once again, I thought there's going to be heaps of questions around therapy, but there's a really cool social skills training model that actually builds the capacity of parents to give social skills across like dozens and dozens of different social things, and they use, you love it, scripts. So one of the scripts that they have for bullying is you teach kids to say, like, tell me when you get to the funny part. And I'm like, don't you think it's such a good script to give a kid who struggles with it to be like, I just remember reading this in a research
when I'm
paper.
impressed.
Yeah. It's just like, but you're actually arming the kid with something to say. Like, that's the cool thing about this particular research, that like the paper talks about that. So yes, you definitely can. You kids get stuck. Well, Bruce Perry, like Dan Siegel, got a shout out. Bruce Perry, there's people I've had the privilege of spending time with. Bruce Perry talks about you get stuck where you've been traumatized. So this kid is just stuck. Also, very quickly, I promise I'll do the trauma bit last. Help-seeking ladders. We think about like different hierarchies of help-seeking. Externalizing is really low. Internalizing, so externalizing throwing a chair, internalizing shutting down and seeing as people don't help, and then avoiding is what happens. The first healthy of the 5 steps is help seeking, and then problem solving is last. I'm thinking about our brain still going to 25, like as in developing prefrontal cortex stuff that helps us with that. So reason I'm telling you those things is he's just stuck in one of those bottom 3 rungs.
Gotcha.
And often those kids will start avoiding. You've got to get them to help seeking and seeing that whatever behaviour is signalling a need in him that he needs help, catching it earlier than the chair throw, but understanding that. So coming back to that. Finally, trauma, yes, in neurodiversity is really important for 3 reasons. One, trauma can look like this. Like, you can struggle with loud noises, you can struggle with unpredictable environments, you can struggle with eye contact and things like that because of trauma, which can mean, oh no, I think this child's autistic. The problem is the needs and the therapeutic approaches are different in how you support someone who's traumatized and how you support someone who's neurodivergent. The other thing is that it will compound. So kids who have trauma, like this child has, who are neurodivergent, are much more likely to have severity in their presentation because the environment is not fit for them. We're very bad at picking up. A lot of these kids, for example, when they're depressed, will increase their repetitive behaviours, for example. And we think, oh, just stop doing that. We don't think about it. Actually, might be depression that's underneath it. Does that make sense?
Yep.
So they'll seek out those soothing things more frequently. They will be less involved in things they were intensely into. Some people go, oh, that's good. He used to be obsessed with that thing and now he doesn't do it as much. But actually, it's a lack of enjoyment in something they previously enjoyed. Do you know what I mean?
Yep.
So there's a vulnerability in that. The final thing is these kids are more likely to experience trauma. Part of that's their sensitivity and the environment and their relationships, all those things, the challenges.
They experience it more deeply?
They experience it more deeply, all of those things. So trauma is really important. Throw back to when we did a while ago, the My Girl stuff. That stuff is all relevant. Grief is a process that there is evidence of how you support kids through it. I'm sure this parent is doing this, but how do you celebrate that, Dad, in honour and validate the awful thing that has happened? You know what I mean? And go through that and create space for not the 5 steps that you go through in grief, like we know that's not helpful, but whatever emotional expression you're having is a need that's underneath you, and I'm here to help you through that. And then, creating really important, safe relationships. That kid has lost a healthy, secure attachment figure. So how do you make sure, including at school, there is one person at first that just helps them feel safe?
Yep.
You know, safety for that kid is really important. Okay. Amazing stuff. Okay, let's do the reflections. I think I'm first.
Billy's first.
Like the advice and reflection bit. Okay. So 3 of them. Hi, Nick and Billy. I found the podcast the month before my youngest was born, 9.5 months ago. Congratulations on the newest edition, Billy. And have been working my way through the back catalogue at a pretty steady pace. Before anything else, I need to say how much I love the podcast. As a mum of 3 small children, 5, 3 and 9.5 months, and a secondary educator, there isn't an episode yet that I haven't found immensely useful. I recommend it, along with the book, to everyone who listens, and I genuinely believe that, whether you're a parent or not, knowing this stuff will make you a kinder, more understanding person, which hugely benefits our society. I could write a whole email about just how great you guys are, but I, a bit like you, Billy, have the gift of the gab, so I better rein myself in now and move on to the topic at hand. This one, nurturing neurodiversity, is one that's close to my heart. What an amazing connection between the experience of John Coffey and neurodivergent people. It really resonated with me. The feeling of glass in the head, being so tired that he was ready to disconnect from the world. It reminded me so much of some of the young people I work with. To give you some context, I work in a curriculum and re-engagement school that caters to young people from years 10 to 12. Some of these young people are neurodiverse, others have disengaged from school due to mental health, trauma, etc. A lot of them face a combination of these. I'm very lucky to work with an amazing team of experienced, caring educators, youth workers and administration staff who strive every day to make the school experience a positive one for young people who face immense difficulties. As someone who worked in the mainstream system for many years, I know how lucky I am to have the space and time to connect with and support our young people. Although many people would shy away from these young people, I feel so incredibly blessed to work with them and support them to make positive progress. There are so many amazing young people I want to share stories with you in the PCB community, but there was one that I absolutely had to. One young girl joined us a couple of years ago as a Year 10 student. Like many who come to us, she had disengaged completely from school and been referred to participation. We knew barely anything about her, her challenges and previous experiences. What we did know that she was selectively mute. A couple of months later, when her diagnostic reports arrived, we learned that she had a whole slew of diagnoses and challenges, but by then we already had a pretty clear understanding of her difficulties. You're probably thinking how, when she didn't speak, which is the reason why I wanted to share her story with you. The first few weeks this young girl didn't speak, but she communicated in other ways, gestures, facial expressions. We focused on making her feel safe, took the academic pressure off in classes and just worked on making her feel part of the group. Within a couple of weeks, she stopped eating lunch alone in the classroom. She started to venture out into the shared space and sit in silence with some of her classmates who happily chatted around her, asking her yes or no questions in low-pressure social engagements. Funnily enough, no one needed to tell them to do this. Her writing was limited, but after a week of being in the space, she started to write simple answers to questions, using objects for physical manipulation, etc., when we started to get an idea of her academic level. As all young people have an individual education plan, we started to implement curriculum goals from the appropriate level and included education experiences to teach protective factors. We kept the pressure low and focused only on helping her feel safe. One day, a month or so after joining us, she walked in and said hello, like it was the most natural thing in the world. It took me everything I had to control my reaction and calmly welcome her to the room. Her peers just rolled with it, like it was no big deal. She continued to make positive progress, and a while later, she started calling me out when I made mistakes or humorously teasing me when I was especially cringy, and I couldn't find it in me to be annoyed, feeling only joy at her newfound confidence. With it, she also started to make significant positive progress in her academic goals that continue to this day. One day, totally unprompted, she explained to me why she'd chosen not to speak. She said that she had told people that things didn't make sense, she didn't understand, had asked for help, people didn't help, so why bother? She was in the dark, crying out for help, and when it didn't come, she chose to be silent. It's an absolute privilege of my job that I get to be someone who finds others in the dark. Next year, this young girl will probably be leaving us. She's found so much success in our community and we've been working on our transition to the workforce, which brings me to my question. As an educator, bridging the gap between secondary school and the workforce, how can we shift employers' views around neurodiversity so they can adopt strategies used in our school environment to support our young people as they transition away from us? We maintain those connections for a time after they leave us, but I want to encourage the wider community to flex rather than the young person. If you've made it to the end of this email, thank you for your time now and for the time that you both spent on the podcast. Yeah, amazing. Sorry. The last one was going to be hard too.
Amazing.
But yeah, amazing. That's how you do it. Tell that story. So yeah, thanks for sending it in. Anyway.
Hey guys, after listening to the Green Mile episode, I felt compelled to write in. I have a beautiful 4-year-old son who's been struggling with PDA, pathological demand avoidance. Every day is a challenge. Most days feel like we're walking on eggshells, just waiting for the next wave of anxiety to hit. When I heard that line in your podcast, it's like holding glass in my head. It really hit home. The moment captured something I've struggled to explain for years, but I want to come at this from a different angle. For the past 4 years, I've been struggling as a father, struggling to let go of the idea of what I thought being a dad would be like. The picture I had in my head probably won't ever happen because my son is different. Not in a bad way, just different from what I expected. And I'm slowly learning that different can be beautiful. I grew up in a strict, authority-driven family. When my dad said something, I did it. No questions asked. But my son is incredibly perceptive. If I have so much, if so much as a make a face, he can read my emotion instantly. He's taught me more about emotional awareness than I ever expected. Listening to you talk about masking really opened my eyes. That's one of the biggest things I struggle with. We'll go out and have an amazing time, smiles, laughs, everything, looking normal. But the second we get home, it's like everything unravels. The crash is intense. It's hard to understand and even harder to manage. I've had my own battles as a father to a son with autism, and thanks to your podcast, I'm slowly starting to understand him. It's tough for dads, especially those of us raised to be tough, to get on with it and just work through everything. It's hard to break the cycle and be emotionally available, present and patient. But I'm trying. I don't know if this message makes complete sense, but I just wanted to say thank you for your podcast. It's helping, I'm learning, and I look forward to all the questions and conversations to come.
Beautiful. Amazing, Dad. Okay, last one. See if I can pull it off without choking up too much. Okay.
You can sub me in if you want,
okay.
Coach.
Okay. Hi, Billy and Dr. Nick.
Good stuff.
Long-time listener, first-time writing. Sneaking this email off while hoping one of my kids isn't drinking the bathwater she's playing in. Fingers crossed. Your recent episode on neurodiversity got me thinking. I'm an educator. I always work with neurodivergent students. As a classroom teacher and as a specialist working with small groups or one-on-one, I love my work. The neurospicy students are my jam. They're why I go to work every day and a big reason I went into the profession to begin with. When I was 7, I was diagnosed with dyslexia, removed from French immersion and enrolled in a school tutoring my parents paid for out of pocket. I was regularly pulled out of class for additional academic support from resources staff at my elementary school. Somehow, my additional needs at school made me realise a connection between me and a boy named Oliver. Oliver was a few years older than I was. He was non-verbal, drooled, and was always accompanied by an aide. If I'm honest, at the time I probably stared and might have been a little afraid of Oliver. He was bigger than me and made sounds without speaking. He was different, but after my own diagnosis, even as a 7-year-old, I realised I was different too. I went on to be successful at school and benefited greatly from resources and technology shared by blind, deaf and other learning disabled students at my university. I went from functionally literate to writing an honours thesis and making the Dean's List and now have a master's degree. For all that time, I never forgot Oliver. I still think of him from time to time. His being in my school normalised disability helped me understand that we all need help sometimes. I've moved provinces and it's a long time ago now. I've never been able to share with Oliver's family what it means to me, but I wanted to share it here because I know that there are parents of all kinds of neurodivergent children who will never know the impact their kids will have on others. I know it's hard, but never stop fighting to have your child included. We need them more than they need us. Oliver didn't need me, didn't know me, but he's made me a better educator, parent and person just by being himself. He helped me feel normal at a time I was told you're different. Different is normal. I tried to make a long story short, but feel free to chop it to bits if you think there's any part that can help. I love PCP and have my fingers crossed for a Canadian stop on a North American tour. Doesn't that sound better than just an American tour?
Amazing.
Nearly needed you. Sorry. God. So therapeutic for this podcast.
So good.
Yeah, God, what a beautiful message to end on, that we need them more than they need us.
Yeah, that was amazing.
Big topic.
That's why it was 3 parts, Billy.
Yeah, you called it early.
I knew it. Felt it in my bones.
Yeah. See if the next one's 3 parts. Okay, movie clue.
Movie clue for the next. Go.
Just very quickly, thank you to everyone that's sending questions. There was so many. It's like 1%, and we got hundreds and hundreds, and every single one of them has been read. You're all amazing, and And we take all the feedback, all the positive, beautiful reflections and advice, and just honouring us. It's amazing. Movie clue.
I won't give my answer.
Yeah, one of the best opening movie scenes of us growing up that starts with a man and a bird. That's all you're getting. We'll see who sends it in first.
It's not going to be me. This doesn't get released for 2 days. No, it still won't be me.
Let's see, because I even checked, is AI going to give that to anyone? And it doesn't. So
that's exactly what I was going to do.
It doesn't.
Then
the Edward Scissorhands one where I put like 5 different photos up and someone put straight into AI. It said Edward Scissorhands. So yeah. We'll see. But important topic that's coming, hearing the community, including people that have come up and asked me, give me advice in person. Keep doing that. It's amazing.
Yep.
I especially love it, meeting people. But yeah, thanks to everyone. Thanks for sitting with us through all of that.
That's great.
And as always, reach out if you want us to do stuff in the community beyond the podcast, because that's what we're really working hard on growing at the moment.
100%. Thanks, Dr. Billy Gave. You put a lot of effort into this 3-parter, and obviously it, frankly takes a toll, as all the episodes do. But this is a really big one. I knew it was going to be a big one, and you honestly do read every single message that comes through, and like you say, it does help shape how you tackle things in clinic and what you talk about on the show. So if it doesn't get read, doesn't mean it isn't impactful. So remember that. Thanks for your time, Dr. Billy Garvey. Thanks guys. I hope you enjoyed the episode. We'll see you for the next one soon.
Hey, don't let your mother smell that beer on your breath. She'll take it out on me.
I don't want to see you again for the rest of my whole life. And I don't want to see anybody else either.
Who is your daddy and what does he do?
Just use your best judgment. We trust you.